What is going to be on the test for Unit I? Unit I on statistics is going to be Tuesday, is when you're going to write down in your notes the test. So turn back, you are way back on page like 28, I believe this is on. And as you look at page 28, 29 is where you're going to write down what the final is, but this is page 28. Test is going to be Tuesday, that is June 2nd. There are 14 questions that we are looking at. As we are looking at those, actually there's 15 questions. It's going to be 100% is going to equal 68 points. The first 10 questions are 50 points. And they're not necessarily the first 10 in order, but I can construct and interpret scatter plots. So like we've been doing in I-7, I-8, I-9, so constructing it, plotting the points. So remember, when you plot the points, you're not going to necessarily connect them with lines. You're going to put your data points. Then you're going to use your ruler and draw your line of best fit, and then use that equation of the line, your trend line, to make predictions. So 10 questions, 50 points. Then you're going to also be asked to construct and interpret two-way tables. As you construct and interpret two-way tables, you're going to accumulate the relative frequencies. So you might do chores and no chores. I might have one heading, and then you have to put in this next one. And you might want to write the word total at the end. Then if we have allowance, and then no allowance. So I might put chores and allowance, and then you would have to fill in the other ones, and then you'd read the situation and fill in. You need to make sure from our project on I-4 that you know row relative frequency means that at the end of each row, you're going to have 100% as you are looking at that. If you're doing column relative frequency, that means that as I look at the bottom of every single column down here, I would have had 100% all the way across, whereas the row relative frequency gives me all of these numbers in the back would have been 100%. And if you do total relative frequency, the only number that would have 100% would be this number, and all of the numbers would be divided by this. So you'd take this number and divide by, if there was 15 people, you'd divide them all by 15. So if you need to pause that to make sure you're writing down, this is the test for Tuesday. This is your I-14. So you will notice that a lot of times I'm going to give you the scale. You have to plot the points. After you make this scatter plot, remember that is just putting all those points. Then you're going to draw the trend line. When you write your equations, remember that is your y equals mx plus b. Your b is your y-intercept. You should be able to see that from your graph. Your slope, or m, the easiest way on a graph is to look at your rise over run. The problem for many of you is you forget to look at the scale. By looking at the scale, notice these are going up by 0.2 each time. So you can't just say I went down 4 and over 5. So if you are looking at that, just to be really careful as you look at I-4, then you're going to use your equation. Now, some of you are only writing down your answer. Whatever equation you had here, and it says use your equation, if on the test you don't use it, you might get 1 point for your answer instead of the 3 points. So if I'm using this and I'm looking at meters tall, that's my height, that means that x equals 2.5. And whatever my equation happened to be right here, I'm going to use y equals, I'm going to put that slope, but instead of the x that's up here, I'm going to put in 2.5, and then I'm going to put plus whatever that y-intercept, and I'm going to show my work that I put in my calculator to get y as you take a look at that. As you continue to the next page, you're going to notice that there's quite a few pages of this assignment for I-14. Number 6, again, we are asking you, looking at this scatter plot, how many mistakes do you expect in 6 hours? So again, you can use your graph and estimate that. Same with this next one. Some of these are going to be multiple choice, similar to on the test. Here, notice again, we give you the scale in that you are asked to write an equation, plot your points, make the scatter plot, do the trend line. As you continue on that next page, you are asked to describe it. So this is where we are looking for some key vocabulary. Is it weak or strong? After you decide weak or strong, then you're going to tell me linear or nonlinear. The last thing that you are going to tell me for each of these sets of data is there clustering, like a group together, or is there an outlier? Now, it could have both clustering and an outlier. It could have only one of those as you take a look at that. Make sure you're checking your answers in the back. Here, you're asked to make row relative frequency. So thinking about what that's telling us, you're going to make the same table, but at the end of each row, all of these will be 100%. Here we are taking a look at it. They ask you to summarize the results are here, and now they ask you to do some information down below as you are looking at that. As you take a look at that next page, again, they have a two-way table, accidents per year, and we're looking at the ages as we are going down, and then they ask you to interpret it. Again, here, they don't fill in all the data. So this is similar to on the test. You know there are 60 people. You're going to have to do some adding and subtracting to fill in the rest of those. Again, make sure you're checking your answer. And as you finish the I-14, as you're taking a look, again, they're going to give you some information. Now they want you to make this two-way table for cell phones and MP3. Remember, you can't have cell phones and MP3. It has to have cell phone and then no cell. And then we are going to have our total as we look at it. And again, check those answers in the back as you are looking at these. Again, you'll fill in your information, make at least 3 statements, check how they are doing that. If you're not sure, look at those answers to help you so that you'll be ready for the test next week. And then if we think of this homework quiz, as you are taking a look, you're asked to sketch positive, negative, strong negative, weak positive, and no correlation. We did this earlier when we did this quiz, so just making sure that that makes sense to you. And on next week, we will definitely look at what's on your final exam. So as you are finishing this, you don't have to write this part in about what's on the final. So as you are taking a look at this page, we will spend some time in class next week looking at the what's on the final and what you need to do to prepare for that. But you can start working if you finish the I-14 on the I-15. So this is all the stuff. Again, you can pause this, but this is the test that we will be taking on Thursday, the last day of school.